It's on the table right now, Lakers fans. The kind of late swing idea that doesn't need a rumor graphic to be real because it lives in the hard numbers of fit, timing, and price. A move that would sharpen our fourth quarter shot profile, steady the second unit's pace, and give this roster a guard who turns small creases into clean looks before defenses even finish their rotation. Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report. I'm coming in hot with a straight, insider-minded breakdown of a possibility the front office has kept warm for weeks. A compact shot maker with movement range, playoff composure, and the kind of off-ball gravity that flips matchups without screaming for the ball. I'm going to show you why the market is listening, how the cap math can work without detonating the depth chart, which rotation levers actually move if this happens, and why the on-court geometry next to our primary creators changes immediately. I won't give you the name yet, because once you see the architecture, the name clicks on its own and the logic sells itself. Let's set the basketball problem plainly. The Lakers have size, switchable wings, and front court creation that punishes single coverage. What they need in the games that decide seasons is a guard who compresses the floor on command without turning every possession into a high-usage monologue. I'm talking about a second-side initiator who lives in that 0.5 tempo. Catch, read, shoot, or slash, and forces help to arrive one step earlier than it wants. When our offense gets sticky, it's rarely because there's no plan. It's because we're one trigger short of keeping the defense in rotation. Add a guard who sprints off pin downs, ghosts into drags, reads top locks like a veteran, and punishes late closeouts with two hard dribbles and a floater, and you're not just adding points, you're upgrading the rhythm of the entire possession. Now the market reality. Across the league, teams hovering near or above the punitive apron are reevaluating which salaries belong in their long-term core and which valuable role players can be flipped for picks and flexibility. That's not a teardown signal, that's modern roster management. When you see a contender with a loaded guard room, a deep shooting chart, and a need to rebalance money into size later in the season, that's where calls get returned. The Lakers live in those calls. Our front office has been disciplined, protect high-end assets for true needle movers, but be ruthless in finding mid-tier deals that buy you playoff possessions. This is one of those deals. It sits in that sweet lane where the incoming talent is playoff-ready, the salary slot is friendly, and the outgoing package doesn't dent your nightly rotation. Before we touch trade levers, picture the fit. Think about our late clock sets where the initial action dies, stagger screen for our primary, rejection, swing, and suddenly the weak side must create something from nothing. With the right guard, nothing turns into an automatic decision tree. If the defense is in drop, he lifts to the slot for a catch-and-shoot three with his feet already set from the relocation. If the defense switches, he doesn't attack to be seen, he attacks to move the nail help, using a tight pickup and a low gather to finish with touch or fire the pocket pass early. If they blitz our main creator and we short roll, he becomes the third man in Spain action. Back screen, pop, read the tag, bang. That's the difference between burning a timeout and stealing a clean look without breaking rhythm. Let's talk rotation impact. On nights when the second unit needs shot stability, this guard becomes the heartbeat. He pushes pace without chaos, hits the trigger on early drag screens before the big sets his feet, and turns semi-transition into a half-court advantage. He doesn't need 12 touches to find rhythm. He needs 2 clean actions and a defender who loses concentration for half a second. That's how you bank bench minutes without taxing your stars. And late in games, you can flow him into 2 guard lineups that protect the ball, punish soft switches, and extend the spacing a step beyond the line. The kind of spacing that makes rim pressure feel lighter even when it isn't. Cap and cost. Because the incoming salary sits in that mid-single-digit band, you're not contorting yourself to match money. What you need is a clean, responsible sendout, one rotation fringe contract that opens the slot, a sweetener that a selling team can develop or flip again, and draft value that respects the player's impact without touching your top-shelf ammunition. Think of this as an oxygen trade. You pay real, but you don't mortgage.
The Lakers can structure this so the outgoing pieces don't gut the identity that's already working. That matters because deadline deals that look smart on paper often fail when they rip the locker room spine. This one doesn't have to. There's also a timeline advantage. Guards with this profile integrate fast because their game is translation-proof. Run, relocate, shoot, screen, and slip, simple reads against the second defender. Drop him into our playbook, and by Game 5, he's running Chicago action like he's been here a year. By Game 10, he's calling for the rescreen himself, setting it at a different angle and baiting the overhelp that leaves a corner 3. The goal here isn't to crown a savior. It's to raise our floor on the nights when the stars fight variance and the whistle shrinks the lane. The hidden value is defensive elasticity. No one is asking a guard of this size to check elite wings in isolation. What he does bring is organized feistiness at the point of attack, quick hands when he digs on drives, and enough discipline to execute our peel switch rules without gifting false steps. The best version of this move doesn't sell you a stopper. It gives you a guard who doesn't get hunted, who tags and recovers on time, and who makes your five-man defense smarter because he rarely breaks structure. When you can keep a shooter on the floor in the last 6 minutes without hiding him, the chessboard gets smaller for the other coach. All right, you've seen the board, so here's the reveal you've been waiting for. The guard in the middle of this scenario is Payton Pritchard. Compact frame, outsized confidence, and a jumper that travels on back-to-backs and in buildings that shake. He's built his name on two things the Lakers can use every single night: instant spacing and instant pace control. He sprints into shots most guards only take when they're wide open, and he hits them with balance. He's equally comfortable as the screener in inverted actions, freeing our primary to attack a defense that's suddenly reluctant to switch because the pop three is a real punishment. This is the profile that keeps your best players fresher because it steals you 8 easy points without calling a play. Why Pritchard now? Because his combination of contract security and on-ball, off-ball duality is rare in this salary range, and because the team that currently employs him might need to rebalance money and size later in the year. That's not me selling you a fairy tale, it's acknowledging that contenders living near the apron sometimes move really good role players to preserve flexibility for a bigger swing down the line. For the Lakers, that's the opening. You're not wrestling away a franchise pillar, you're paying properly for a specialized guard who raises your playoff shot quality. If the other side wants draft value and a useful rotation piece, the conversation begins. If the ask creeps into premium pick for a non-primary, you hang up and keep shopping. It's that simple.
Let's build the on-court picture with some clarity. With Pritchard on the floor, your second units can run more drag and delay. He'll pull the big high with the threat of the pull-up, then slip a pocket to a rolling big, or skip to the weak side shooter when the low man pinches the nail. He's dangerous on the exit of Spain PNR. Set the back screen, ghost out, and he's already turned his hips to catch and fire if his defender momentarily ball watches. In early offense, he changes angles without drifting out of bounds. In late offense, he knows when not to pound the air out of the ball. That economy is everything in playoff basketball. You don't need a guard who wants to explore, you need a guard who wants to arrive. One more wrinkle. Pritchard's presence changes how teams defend our stars. If you leave him for a heavy stunt, he bar catches and fires in one motion. Run him off the line, and his short dribble floater is good enough that the weak side has to commit, which unlocks the dunker spot pass. Coaches feel that in film the next morning. They'll shade one fewer body toward our driver, which means cleaner first bursts, which means less banging, which means healthier legs in April. That's the multiplier you pay for. Risk profile, because we don't do fantasy here. First, you're acquiring a guard who thrives on rhythm. If you bury him behind 3 ball-dominant creators, you've wasted the asset. That's on coaching and usage. Second, you can't overreact to a 2-week heater or a 2-week cold spell. Shooters ride waves. What you buy is the shot diet, movement threes, clean catch and shoots, fast decisions, not a nightly point total. Third, defense is system dependent. He's as good as the 5-man shell around him. The Lakers can protect him with switch and peel rules and by refusing to strand him on an island against length.
If you execute that, the floor stays level and the offense pays you back double. So what does a responsible Lakers offer feel like? A medium-sized salary slot that doesn't fracture the rotation, a prospect with real tools or a wing who can contribute for them immediately, and draft value placed far enough out to be useful but not crippling, ideally layered with protections or a swap to balance risk. You don't include your best young core piece, you don't include a premium first unless the framework expands. If it's a clean 1-for-2 plus a pick structure that respects both sides, that's the lane. If it starts flirting with your top shelf, you pivot. The strength of this front office right now is patience tied to action. Strike when the ask lands in your value band, walk when it doesn't. Let me spell out why this matters for the spring. In a 7-game series, the teams that survive are the teams that manufacture 6 to 8 free points every night. Points that come from being better organized, from winning the spacing battle by half steps, from having a shooter who scares the third defender into one fewer dig. Pritchard is exactly that kind of manufacturing. He doesn't demand your offense, he performs inside it. He doesn't bend your defense, he obeys it and keeps it honest. And because his number is team-friendly, you're not locked into a future you don't want. If the fit is perfect, you extend the partnership. If it isn't, you retain a movable contract and an elite NBA skill that always has a market. I want your read on this before we land the plane, because this channel lives on real basketball conversations. If the price is a rotation piece on the fringes, a prospect, and future draft value with smart protections, do you pull the trigger on Payton Pritchard to Los Angeles? Or do you ride internal growth, keep your ammo for a bigger fish, and try to solve the second unit shot diet with tweaks? Be specific in the comments. Give me the package you'd send, the minutes you'd assign, and the closing 5 you'd want to see with him in purple and gold. I'll be in there with you, breaking down ideas and adjusting the board in real time. My view, clear and concise. If the ask sits in that responsible band and the usage plan is honest, Pritchard is a playoff skill set at a manageable price, a bet on shot quality, pace control, and lineup flexibility that travels in May. If the ask creeps up into premium capital for a non-primary, I pass, because the Lakers' big swing should still be reserved for a two-way wing or an elite primary creator. But as a surgical in-season ad, this one makes basketball sense today. If this breakdown helped you see the court the way I do, possession by possession, decision by decision, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with the Lakers fan who texts you every time a shooter hits a movement 3. I'll keep you ahead of the curve with fast updates and deep analysis the second anything shifts on this front.